Oh no! What you just saw is peak Yakuza storytelling. The sub-story showcased the humanity within Kiryu. He doesn't kill and doesn't hit kids. Never mind, ignore what I just said. Let's just go into my favorite sub-stories of the series. What's a better way to spend your time than training a woman who wants to be the best dominatrix in town? I'll tell you what, if this was me in this situation, I'm training this dominatrix like training in the hyperbolic time chamber. The sub-story had it all, from beating up thugs to making life or death choices, and Kiryu questioning his motivation to help this poor woman. I know for a fact the freakiest people watching this video picked every correct choice. You know who you are. There are literal kids witnessing a BDSM live role-playing session in this sub-story. What are they even doing there? Anyway, How to Train Your Dragon went from dragon to dominatrix in this kid-friendly game. Well, after going through a roller coaster of emotions, the dominatrix successfully makes her clients squeal and beg for more, and everyone lives happily ever after, except for Kiryu's humility. If you want to show a sub-story to your friends to get them into these games, this is it. Who in the writing department decided to put grown-ass men in diapers being taken care of by women? RGG knew they were cooking some heat with this when they added actual cutscenes. Kiryu gets roped into some bullshit again by beating up some thugs, and a modestly dressed president of said clan invited you to his club. How nice of him, right? And he also promised us women. Of course we can't turn something like that down, right? Kiryu is a certified player after all. He's a virgin. Only to realize this isn't the typical club that we think.
楽しんどるが最高のプレイやろ
Kiryu being oblivious as always until something is right in front of him is a sight to behold. And what better way to bamboozle our Pookie Bear by exposing him to men in diapers being coddled by young women. But of course, Kiryu is a typical beta and doesn't like what he sees, so he wants to leave. The grown men in diapers of course don't let him. So as always, you're just beating up a bunch of men in diapers. That's honestly all there is to this sub-story. There's nothing more to say but peak writing. And another peak sub-story is my man Onomichio, the #1 mascot in town. I mean, look how cute this motherfucker is. And what even cuter is we got this handsome man underneath that costume. Of course, when the city needed someone, Kiryu stepped in as this town's Batman. When this sub-story was first introduced, I couldn't help but smile the entire time. The way Kiryu interacted with the kids, the way he kicked ass in the costume, and this.
Oh no!
I love that no matter what happens in this story, Kiryu is forced to stay in character. He is tested constantly, and of course, we as the player have to choose the right decision. If you guys didn't pick sexy women, what are you even doing? And what isn't a Kiryu sub-story without thugs intervening? Well, seeing him beat the hell out of the thugs in this costume just kept adding on to an already hilarious sequence of events. The sheer brute force coming from this innocent looking costume was the perfect way to wrap it up. I also love that they brought this sub-story back for Yakuza 7, seeing how it was popular amongst fans. RGG loves making frauds of their famous characters, and our famous Onomichio is no exception. Speaking of Yakuza 7, please tell me y'all remember the Forget-Me-Not sub-story? I know with all the giant vacuum Roombas and a circus monkey operating a crane probably made some of you forget this masterpiece of a sub-story. Don't get me wrong, these were great too, but it was a sheer plot twist this sub-story slapped me in the face with. For those of you who forgot, Ichiban meets this girl who claims that Ichiban saved her from being assaulted back in Kamurocho. Ichiban hardly remembers this, but his gullible ass goes with it anyway, and they decide to do a series of dates together and hang out. This is where it gets weird. Every hangout spot they go to is met with confusion by a random citizen in the end. You brush it off as you know Ichiban is just a weird guy. He has all sorts of looks, but when they sit at a cafe, the waitress only serves for one, and when Ichiban insists on getting his date something, the waitress says to herself, I guess she'll get here when she gets here. What do you mean? She's right there sitting in front of Ichiban. But no matter how obvious it starts to get, nothing will ever prepare me for the ending. This was just another one of RGG's classic ghost stories. The last scene is shown admitting her love for Ichiban and she just vanishes without a trace. She never was in the arcade. She never was at the cafe, but she lived in Ichiban's memories, which played an important important role in her life. And for the first time, a Yakuza sub-story made me shed a tear. And this sub-story specifically made me shed tears of cringe. This might be because this game was recent, but I don't believe this sub-story is talked about enough. This sub-story is the exact reason why I don't associate myself with weeb culture. Literally the first thing this guy with Japanese words tattooed on him thinks when he sees Ichiban is a modern day samurai.
Oni-san! You're the real thing! The modern Japanese samurai!
I immediately knew where this was going, and it turns out he was a director for a TV station filming Japanese people. Of course he is. And throughout their conversation, he says these Japanese words to express his excitement like,
How subarashi!
So they have Ichiban do a bunch of tests for the show, and each one gets crazier and crazier per the RGG formula. But all I remember about the sub-story is the amount of times I winced and cringed at what was given to Ichiban. First, it starts off with a food taste test with 2 Hawaiian meals and a Japanese meal. The director nudges him to try the Japanese meal, of course. Next thing you know, it's raining, and he makes him choose between an umbrella or a traditional Japanese straw hat. Obviously, umbrella isn't Japanese enough, so straw hat it is. Oh, a dart competition is next. What will it be this time? Typical darts and what? Shoryukens? Of course! It's the most Japanese thing anyone could think of. Ichiban picks the Shoryukens against his will, and he's finally catching on. Ichiban then loses the competition, and for his punishment, cutting his pinky off.
Hell no, man.
If this was me, I would have been beating this man's ass by now. This guy's a perfect embodiment of never being punched in the face. Oh wait, it happens 2 seconds later. Anyway, same old Yakuza sub-story after that. There's these thugs harassing the director, you swoop in to save him, and the director turns over a new leaf by not acting the degenerate he always has been. Kasuga's patience is commendable, as I would have drop-kicked this man after this. But hey, that's what makes Kasuga Kasuga. I hope you enjoyed the short list of sub-stories I found to be the most memorable. Yakuza definitely has a lot more sub-stories that are memorable. There would be a lot to cover in one video. So hey, if this video does well, maybe a part 2 might be on the horizon. But if you did enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, and comment down your most memorable sub-story in the game as well. And with that being said, peace.